Hello, welcome to the Sovereign Magazine show. I am Nicole George. Sovereign Magazine is a transformational experience where conscious conversations meet embodied wisdom. Each episode invites visionary healers, thought leaders, and change makers to share their journey of awakening, offering listeners practical tools and soul-stirring insight to reclaim their inner authority. Today we have Dr. Jeanine L. Williams here for a year-long sacred journey into lineage, intuition, healing, and embodied remembrance. Her show is called The Path of Ancestral Reconnection, and today we're going to be talking about remembering who we are beneath it all. Welcome, Dr. Jeanine.
Hello, everybody. Hello. I am so excited to be here. Um, I am Dr. Jeanine L. Williams. I am an ancestral medicine woman. I'm a spiritual herbalist and intuitive guide. I'm also the founder of Ancestors Bosom, which is a sacred space for just kind of returning home to ourselves, returning home to our lineage, reconnecting ancestrally. A lot of that we'll get into. But yeah, I use not only just our sense of intuition and connecting with, this that deeper knowing, but also using herbal and plant allies as partners, as co-journeyers as we kind of take this path of remembrance.
Yes. Oh, I'm just so intrigued about this whole subject. So I'm so excited we get to be together for a year. So for anybody who hasn't liked, shared, or subscribed, definitely do so you get all the dings and bells and notifications about this year-long journey we're going to be on with Jeanine. And today, my first question is, what exactly is remembering? And what is this ancestral medicine remembrance that we need to have so that we can begin to look beneath all of these layers and inherited patterns that we might have?
Yes. So how to best like describe remembrance? Because I really try to not make something that is actually quite simple too complex, right? By giving it too many layers and too many words. It really is what it says it is. It's just remembering, right? To listening to what comes to the surface. And that memory smells things we're inclined to. It could be literal memories, right, of family members, of traditions, of experiences, um, and then just realizing that that isn't random, like that is, or it's not just these kind of thrown around bits, that all of that has shaped who we are, right? And so when we talk about kind of going beneath it all, right, it is a process of remembering and getting back to some of those core and foundational moments, core and foundational um, teachings, experiences, um, and using that as a foundation. But even more so, like even like when I think about remembrance too, to take it even just deeper, it's about like what we feel. Like, I am trying to explain it's something so I can move my body and kind of demonstrate it that way, but it's like a that knowing when we're most quiet, when we're most still, when we're not being pulled at, what is there? And so connecting with that as like that core remembrance. And that's what I mean by like ancestral remembrance, that we carry that at our core. Beneath every layer is that ancestral remembrance.
I saw you moving and shaking and really tapping into the presence of it. So, what role does our body play in helping that remembrance? I know you have a very specific practice that you do that maybe you can share with the audience, but I know our body is very important to this whole journey of remembrance.
Absolutely. And we're taught to be so disconnected from our bodies, right? We are told to live in our heads, right? And not here, not our third eye, like in our, like, in our brains, always analyzing, processing, um, almost treating ourselves like a computer. And we even have talked about ourselves like, oh, we're like a computer and we have a file cabinet. Like even the language we use to talk about ourselves, we are always in our heads. But what really, but really where the connection comes is when we drop into our bodies. And, I'm not talking about, because again, we deal with our bodies on very superficial levels too. My weight or what I have on. No, I mean, if you could almost imagine your body, right, your physical body as a suit and you unzip it, it's something inside. That's what I'm talking about. That inside, right, getting in there. Um, and so our bodies house our spirits, right? And the spirit uses the body to kind of communicate, right? To talk with us. And so coming back into the body is very important. And we live so outside of the body, or we treat the body as some object that needs to be tamed or reduced. We just shrink it. We do so much to our, in terms of even how we look at our bodies and not thinking of it as the altar or the home or the dwelling place of our spirit. Um, and the body, a lot of times, that's the first, like, kind of line of communication. When we feel uncomfortable, when we get a chill, even if we think about something like sickness or dis-ease, right? That is, it always has a spiritual origin. It is our spirit speaking through the body, but we're so taught to turn it off, to take a pill to suppress the symptoms, right? And even, oh, what are your symptoms? We treat those, but that is the body talking. That's the body communicating and listening. And the more we listen, the more we hear. And a lot of times we don't listen to our body until it is screaming at us, right? We're completely burned out, or we have a terminal illness, or all of that kind of um pathology, right? When really we can lean into and work with the body, right? Again, seeing it as the altar, the vessel in which our spirit dwells.
Yeah. Okay. I'm imagining somebody behind the screen going, okay, Dr. Jeanine,
Yeah.
I'm going to try to zip off this outer layer and go within into my body. And they're perhaps lost or scared of what they might uncover or unsure because zippered suit has been their protective mechanism and it feels so comforting and secure, right? How do you guide somebody to begin to feel comfortable enough to start taking off the armor, if you will, or that suit?
It is something as simple as just sitting with it. And whatever comes, whatever you feel, whatever, even the urge to jump out of the skin and run away, right? Sit with it, don't judge it, and learning the different sensations, learning the points of discomfort, um, and leaning into that, becoming curious about it. And now, not as, oh, it's a problem to be solved or some puzzle or something like that, but oh my, this body that loves me, that is designed intelligently to balance itself, to keep me in balance at all times. And any imbalance is my body trying to love me back into balance, right? And so sitting with all of those sensations, sitting with the discomfort, um, sitting with the resistance without judgment, surrendering to it, right? That's it, right? And there's no right or wrong way to do. We don't have to be afraid of our bodies. When we
No.
sit with that and we sit without judgment and we just allow whatever comes to the surface to come to the surface, what we start realizing is that at the core of every maybe uncomfortable emotion is love, right? When we think of anger, if we dig a little deeper, there's grief. If we dig a little deeper, there's love. Like we are love. Love is our core, and fear. Fear is love, right? I, I love you so much. I need to protect you. I need to keep you safe. Fear is the part of us that loves us and wants to keep us safe. So at our we are the beloved. We are love. And so that's what we get back to when we come into the body. That's how we come back to that. It's just sitting without judgment. It's okay. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. I love that because when we start to notice, I remember when I started to notice feelings, and it helped me personally label them as something because then I could say, I see you again, fear, or I see you again, um, anxiety or whatever. It helped me label them because then I could notice them in a way that was familiar to me, which was attaching a word.
Yeah.
And then I could say, I just see you and I love you just as much as I love, happiness or joy, the opposing or the polarity of it, right?
Yeah.
And loving all the in between and the messiness. But I think that for somebody who is just starting to remember themselves, I think that we have to hold space for that person as well, who is afraid to feel polarity and everything in between because we're taught everybody's taught something different, but a lot of us are taught to put masks on, and whatever that mask is for you, that's where you kind of feel the safest. And so when you start peeling back those layers, you're going to start to uncover some ancestral patterns. So, like for me, my mask would be avoidance, right? I avoid anything. I'm a preventer. I don't like conflict. I like to be joyous and happy, right? So as I notice that pattern, I'm seeing that something is obscuring me from actually going deeper, right? So how do we begin to clear ancestral patterns that are helping us maybe keep masks on or obscure our remembering?
I think I like to think of the concept of neutrality. Like, we can't just jump to, oh, I love this. Can we at least start with neutrality? I remember about 5 years ago when I decided I wanted to be at peace with my physical body. Like I did not want to, I keep trying and tinkering and turning it into this project that I approached so, quite honestly, hatefully, right? Something's wrong and I'm going to overcome it. I remember reading and it said the part of your body where your eyes immediately go that's where you want to start picking. Can you spend time in the mirror, look at that and kind of settle into neutrality? I'm not ready to, I've spent so much time hating you. I don't even know where to begin to love you. But can I move from the fear, the disdain, right? All the like the kind of the negative aspects of the pole, and can I just inch my way to neutrality? And so I would say for someone who is fearful or doesn't like what they see, or all right, let's just inch our way to neutrality. And we take our time. There's no rush in that. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And some days you'll be able to feel more neutral, and other days, that pattern of dislike in my case, will be more loud. But but when we kind of start moving to a space of neutrality, when the fear or the disdain gets loud, we know, okay, got it. This is our pattern, right? And okay, you're present, the fear is present, the disdain is present, and I can recognize you. But I don't have to jump in and strap myself in and go for the full ride. I see you. This is where you are today. Okay. And even neutralizing that. So there's something about the concept of neutrality. If we can't get all the way to the other end of, oh, this is great, how can we find neutral when it just is?
I love that. I love neutrality because it's not an either or, it's an and, right?
Yes,
Sometimes we might be on this side of
yes,
the needle or neutrality, and
yes,
sometimes we might be on that side. But if we can kind of come to the middle,
yes,
sometimes that would be
yes.
nice, right?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
I love
Absolutely.
one of the other questions I have too is around everybody really wants like a way to, we're so used to the teacher checking our work and giving us a grade on how we're doing, right? And so when we're in this process, we're our own teacher. And so for somebody who's on this journey, it might be helpful for them to see signs or indicators as that they're progressing. And I know for me, one of my indicators was simply noticing that I even had a voice again, that I could have my intuition back. So, like, I always use this example. I was doing the dishes and I asked myself, what do you want in this moment? And I said to just sit down for 15 minutes. And I honored that. That to me was a sign of progress, that I was finally deconditioning the layers and going beneath to really hear my authentic self. But what are some of the other ways or signs and signals that maybe either you have experienced or your clients have experienced as kind of a stamp of approval that we're moving more towards neutrality or a way of being authentic that we prefer?
The first thing that like when you asked that came was a playfulness, a joyfulness, like not taking it so seriously. Um, Yeah, just kind of getting your giddiness back. I think that's a big one, right? Because at the at the land, we and beneath a lot of those layers is the inner child, right? Where a lot of all of the masks and all of the pretending and the people play, like that's where that kind of it starts as maybe a survival mechanism, and then it gets kind of codified into identity, right? We're just that person. But so when there is kind of that ease or playfulness. And it doesn't even have to be constant, but just the glimmers of playfulness, of giddiness. I think that is a major one. That's a major one, and especially for women for those of us who are mothering and caring and even if you're not mothering biological children, we're mothering a career, we're so serious and everything to, we make one move, we're going to ruin everything forever. And so coming into that sense of playfulness and joyfulness is a different posturing for us. That's definitely a big one. And just like being okay, like, recognizing something and being okay with it. As you said, like, I want to sit down for 15 minutes and go on and sitting down for 15 minutes, right? Because it's not so do or die. If it's not done at this moment, what is that, right? That's programming, that's that heaviness. And so those playful moments, finding ease, finding joy, even if it's just glimmers of it to start. That's the beginning of, kind of coming back to yourself and coming from, but shedding the layers. Yes.
Okay, before I ask my last question, I want to remind
Yes.
everyone there's going to be another episode. So, episode 2 is going to be about tending the ancestral bond. So definitely be subscribed so that you don't miss the next episode. But before we close, I would love for you to share how or what do you hope listeners carry with them into today as one piece of wisdom that can help them in this journey of remembrance?
You're not a problem that needs to be solved, that you can approach yourself with love. And if love is too far right now, neutrality. You're okay. That you are already whole. And so healing or remembrance is coming back to the wholeness that is already yours. And so it's not that you're trying to get to a place of wholeness. You're just remembering that you are already whole and learning how to stand in that, live in that, walk in that, love in that, again. So that's the biggest one. That there's when we think about the path of ancestral remembrance, it's not something now we got to, okay, it's already there. You are your ancestors. They already reside in you. They already whisper to you daily. And it is just getting back into the body, coming back into yourself, and being able to hear that, to hear it, to sit with it, to recognize it. Yeah. So that's it.
Mm,
We're already whole. We're coming back. We're remembering wholeness, not trying to become whole. We are already whole. Whole is our default.
yeah, we were born whole because if you think about it, a baby, they're born perfect with no flaws, and they are not afraid to show who they are, right? I need to be fed, feed me now.
Yes, yes, yes. Mhm. Yeah,
All
our
right.
souls remember. They remember. And it is just, yes, coming back to that, shutting off all of the things that buried that in us.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to be working on those ancestral bonds on our next episode.
Yes,
If you'd love to
yes.
connect and communicate with Jeanine, she's in our community, community.sovereign-magazine.com. She also has her own private community, the Circle of Remembrance, that you can join as well. All the details are in the show notes for how to connect with her, and you will definitely see her on the next one. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a joy.